Welcome to Portals of Perception and to Current Openings episode 17. This is a special Current Openings, one we call Burning Questions, where the Open Circle team, Lisa, Kyriaki, Patrick and Peter, are bringing to the table important burning questions emerging through the Current Openings conversations. David, Lisa, Kyriaki, Patrick and Peter, welcome. Let us begin.
Thanks, Aviv. It's good to be here with you, and I look forward to the first question.
Yeah, great to be here.
I think everyone would have noticed that throughout Current Openings, we cover a lot of ground of personal development from all kinds of angles and depths and practices and knowledge and understandings. It's a wealth of information. And if someone is on that path of trying to develop, they have all of this information, and then we look out our window and we look in the media. We go out into the world today, and sometimes it's a very scary place. There's a lot happening that's unpredictable. There's a lot of stress all over the place, a lot of pain and anguish and chaos happening in the world. And so I'm sitting here wondering if someone is really trying and they're serious about wanting to develop in a world that's changing really, really fast. Can you pick, I don't even know if it's possible to narrow it down, but what are kind of the really important areas someone should focus on in way of development, just to be able to cope with, and maybe even serve a role in helping what's happening in the world today?
Sure. Well, what comes to mind here is having a place to look out from. So it's very easy to get recruited into whatever the latest news of the day is, whatever the latest stress is, what's happening at this moment, even on the other side of the world. So I would recommend position taking in self. And a good way into that is the question, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? What position do I take in myself about life? So I would call that recentering, refocusing, bringing my focus back to me, bringing my energies back to me, looking to actually build a permanent place to view from. I would call that a posit ion, taking a position. Posit ion being positive, ion being an energy word. An ion is a positively or negatively charged particle. So taking a posit ion, what's your positive stance, and where are you coming out from in yourself? And to build that on a daily basis, because the world is going to change the energies every 5 minutes, or at least every day. So it's a matter of building something positive and constant in oneself as a place to come out from into the world. So inside to outside, otherwise the outside just carries the day. A saying on that, if you don't make up your own mind, something else will.
Yeah, fantastic.
Well, so building on this first brief from David, where you talk about what do you want, which to me is one of the entry points into the inquiry of purpose. I would say that leading oneself in a chaotic world, one wants to be grounded and anchored in some guiding principle and guiding purpose that is central and centering for a person's life. And then there are within that two questions, which is, if you found your purpose, you can ask, how do you stay connected and tethered to your purpose? But that would often be the second question, because you first need to actually ask, well, how do you find that sense of purpose, that sense of mission? And for me, I began to inquire about what was life about and what was going to be the guiding purpose of my life. I actually started consciously when I was 15, 16. This probably was active semi-consciously earlier. And I spent the last year of high school, made an agreement with the principal of the school that I will sit on my own in the library, read and write my high school dissertation. And I wrote my vision for humanity and my part in it. It was a nice, robust starter for a 15, 16-year-old. And then I'm now 48 years into that centering inquiry. So I never felt going through life without some guiding rope that is centering for my life, not in my adult life. There were often times that I was confused, bewildered, unsure how the lofty goals that I've had in my mind, how will I ground them in reality? And by the way, how will they pay the bills and all the rest of it? But then I discovered that by helping other people develop their purpose, that served me as a way of an endeavor that offered me grounding. And working with people for many, many years and seeking to be useful for them, I discovered often when you coach, when you facilitate, when you lead, when you teach others, the greatest beneficiary is you yourself, because you're teaching somebody else, but you're really, all true teachers, they're actually first of all teaching themselves. They're trying to get the point to themselves. And I found that when you help people find their center, their purpose, their mission, whatever the language was, each person was wired differently. And that I needed to formulate different pathways, different entryways for people to discover their center and their purpose. Sometimes the question was, what is most important for you? Like, what is your centering value? A second situation will be asking a person, what makes you most alive? When do you come most alive? A third situation would be, what is it that you sense as your core passion and a way that excites you about something? So these were different ways to inquire and offer people the entry points to their sense of self and what they're here to do in the face of a chaotic world. Sometimes I'd ask a person, what do you feel is your highest calling? But for some people that was too abstract. Calling? I don't know what that is, some people would say. So I find that living a purpose-seeking, purpose-searching, purpose-inquiring journey is the way to navigate in a chaotic world, and that to do so, the one other game changer you could consider is if you could find a purpose that would help you be inspired in some developmental direction and would in some way be serving the context of the time, right? The context of what's occurring in the bigger picture, the bigger moment of life. And if you could do that, then that would be a way for you to unlock your possibility to make a difference, perhaps for others, and that could become very meaningful. In the practical sense, Patrick, my brief would be find a purpose, and find a purpose that continues to evolve so you can evolve with it. Become clear about who and what are you serving. People, situations, dynamics. And become interested in how those situations, dynamics, people are evolving so you can actually be relevant. And then the biggest differentiation for me was find a community or a mastermind circle. So you don't do this journey on your own. I have been on a personal quest, development quest. It had different names at different times of my life, inside a community context for more than 40 years. Often in some kind of a service capacity, facilitating, leading, and so on. But again, what I'm saying is, when you serve others, you do yourself a huge, big service. So, and the last thing I'd say about this, Patrick, when you ask people who are in a difficult, extreme, even war zone situations, what is helpful for them the most? When you don't know what to do, find somebody else who don't know what to do and help them. And by helping them, you begin to help yourself. So that would be my...
Right. No, thank both of you. That gives us a lot to think about. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I am called to break our format a bit and see if David wanted to just put anything else on top of that. And if not, we'll just move to the next question.
I'm right with you. I think that dynamic of what do I want and then linking that into purpose, like you carry along that road enough and you start to get, well, what's my purpose? And that gives the position to come out from. So yeah, that takes it and moves it on. So that's, I think that's a really good recommendation.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to continue. And thank you for this great opportunity to ask our burning questions to the current opening masters. So, wonderful question, Patrick. And my question maybe follows. Let's say someone find what he wants and finds the passion in one's life. Say it's a teacher in a classroom, someone who has a passion about education, or is a parent who loves to grow up children, a mother and a father, or is an artist that is passionate about his music, his painting, his theater skill, or let's say it's someone who wants to follow a noble cause, a spiritual community, or serve the wider well-being of humanity. But as one goes on, maybe the soda loses the fizz. So maybe this passion becomes stale or stagnated. So the question is, how can one renew and evolve this passion and be in the cutting edge, be current and be in the cutting edge and find the next steps? And this question is inspired from Current Openings 14, what does it mean to develop, where you opened up the development skill of not just facilitating a domain, but moving into renewing the domain and evolving the domain. So I would appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, let me go first on this and give David the opportunity to build on that, or go wherever you want to go. So I've been in the business of asking questions, and most of my adult life. So I'm highly alerted that often the how questions are in one way the $1 million questions, but also that most how questions cannot really be answered on their terms. That truly most how questions you need to answer by answering a different question, which is either a why question or a what question. So like, why do you want to, or why do you need to stay fresh, vital, and rejuvenated in your endeavor? Like in the framing of your questions, a teacher, a parent, and so on, that would offer some answer into it. But a person needs to inquire, why do I want to be rejuvenated in my endeavor? Or what is the kind of cutting edge that I truly want to be at? And by answering that, these two questions, often that will answer the how question. So that would be my first response. The second is that there are two situational configurations to address in the question. One is when a person lost that sense of being at the edge and you're answering that. And the other is when one is at the edge and they're saying, how do I stay here? So if somebody lost a sense of vitality, lost a sense of being renewed in their endeavor, my advice is, my brief is, ask the why question. Why are you finding yourself stale at this moment? And why is it important for you to be rejuvenated? What do you hope to be able to do? How do you hope to be able to show up differently? And in the course of that, you will discover that staying fresh is a way of life. Staying fresh is a disposition. Staying fresh is an attitude. Staying fresh is actually an embodied way of being. It's a strategy. If you are at the edge, you are asking the question more from the experience of what you're in, where you know you don't want to be anywhere else, because at the edge of whatever the domain that you are exploring, you are innervated and energized by something else. Because always at the boundaries of a domain, there is a vibrancy of new possibility. There is a novelty factor. So I would encourage that. And finally, I'll circle back to what I just said earlier in response to the question from Patrick. The jackpot of a development endeavor of any kind, a teacher, an artist, whatever, is can you do your personal endeavor inside some broader context? That's the sweet spot. So, because if you do that, you are building capacities and skills that are in great demand. Let me just give you actually an example. It's in an adjacent space, kind of an example. People over the last 4 decades that developed technical skills like computer engineering skills, they enjoyed unproportional benefits in the broader economy. Why? Because that was the wave we were experiencing. So they were always on the cutting edge of something, because that space, that domain, was all the time evolving. Now it's evolving into AI, and after AI it will evolve into quantum computing. So just to make a point that I'm following that frontier as well. However, if you believe that something bigger is unfolding for humanity and that wave will find a new expression or a new frontier, you may want to scout for where that is. I, for example, deeply believe that within the next decade or two, journey Sherpas, transformation and development facilitators, healers of all kinds, poets of development possibilities, midwives of emergent discoveries in owning and rediscovering what being humans at this time means. I believe those skills, those capacities will become extraordinarily important, because the more the world becomes more complex and connected, also technologically, the more people will need to find access to, okay, but how do I actually stay sane inside this chaotic world? So everybody will need the coach, everybody will need to have a dream team around them of the people that they are in touch with on a daily or a weekly basis. So the bit profound need in that space. So for example, if you are in that space, it will help you stay revitalized, because you are operating in the context of the bigger drama, the bigger demand that's unfolding for humanity at this time. So that would be my answer to this. Find a way to stay at the edge of yourself and at the edge of the wave that's riding through the time. You will always be revitalized, especially when you surround yourself with smarter people than you, because they will keep you alert.
All right, well, I'll pick it up from there. Hi, Kyriaki. So I'm going to just really take up how Aviv started there about the how and the why. So in relation to when we're in the flow, when we're in the passion, I'm on an energy world. I'm on a kind of energy dynamic today. So passion, it literally says pass ion. Again, ion is positive or negative energies. So when we pass ions, we're literally, our molecules are getting excited. We don't then need to be saying, why am I doing this? Because we're right there in it. We're excited. There's an energy flow and we're at it. The importance of why is when we get kind of, as you said, stale, or we start to feel like we're running out of that energy, then the question why is reconnective. I love the fact the question mark is like a hook. You know, you're throwing your hook out and you're pulling back in the connection to what it is, to why you're doing what you're doing. And that then, you can then do a follow-up question, which is, well, how does it serve my sense of purpose? How does it then serve other people? But you're starting with reconnecting to the energetic. So there's kind of a balance between what could be called form and content. And they used to say form follows function. I came up with a new way of saying that, which is form follows energy. If you don't have the energy and you start creating form, it ends up feeling clunky. And it can be like, oh, why am I doing this? It all feels a bit heavy. So then we need to reconnect into that energetic component, which is in the why am I doing it? And then if we can link it into our sense of purpose that we've come to, going back to what do I want, then we get to our sense of purpose. And then if we can find it, how does it then also contribute to the bigger picture of society? How does it serve other people? Then we kind of built it up. But that question, why, is the hook into the energetic. So when we lose our excitement, we're losing the kind of ionic connection. We're losing the currency. It's why it's called current openings. It's to open up currency. It's to get into currency. Look at that word. You know, you've got electrical current. You've also got, if you don't have the currency, well, you're not going to be able to do certain things, like, you know, financially. Well, it's the same energetically. If you've got the financial currency, you can say, I'm going to go to, I don't know, wherever, Ecuador for a weekend, you know, whatever the thing is. But if you don't have the energetic currency, you can have a big projection of what you want to do. But if there isn't the energy to enable you to do it, it doesn't open up. So it's having the current to make the opening, which is kind of why it's current openings. It's to help, like in a dialogue like this, and for those watching, part of the purpose of current openings in that sense is to help any person reconnect to the currency of their passion and discover what that passion is. Yeah. So that would be my two penneth on that, Kyriaki.
Thank you. It's a great both answers. I'll draw on them, and you definitely are examples because you seem to be very passionate about what you're talking about. So you're a good example. And maybe one thing also that moves us to continue is emotion. So I will pass the baton to Lisa on that.
Wonderful. And thank you so much. And great to be with you all. So it's interesting because it feels like we have a thread here about passion, which was not our intention, really. It was to have different areas. But I'm going to continue on that line because that was my question. So in current openings number 9, when we spoke about emotions, or you spoke about emotions, you refer to the emotions as potent fuels. And one of the most potent fuels. And also the idea again came up of passion. So I would ask, how best can we access the power of these potent fuels in a way that assists us in discovering the deeper meaning of our lives, which is the purpose?
Well, shall I start on this one, Aviv?
Please.
All right. So what I'm getting there is, again, well, it's emote ion. We're again on the ionic theme. But emotion, going back to what Patrick asked, emotion often gets triggered from the outside. So something happens in the world and then we see it and it summons up an emotion, but it's not actually in our control. It's not something that we are then targeting and then following through, putting energy to. So to me, the higher expression of emotion is devotion. And devotion is where we actually take that power and we put feeling to our purpose. So we have that same dynamic of what am I doing? Why am I doing it? What's my purpose? And then we have the reason why, and there's a connection between our mental life and our emotional life. So we actually get the mind and the emotion working together in a targeted or integrated way. And that then adds power. Then we say, well, that person's really devoted to what they're doing. How do you tell they're devoted? Because they literally devote. They stop doing lots of other things because they're focusing their energy into the dynamic where they see they can make a difference. So when you find someone that says, well, I want to make a difference, this is a theme in my life, I want to make a difference in someone's life, well, they're going to need to focus on the thing they're going to make a difference with. If they just do that on a Tuesday, but they do other things the rest of the time, it's unlikely to have enough potency to break through. So this is where looking in the world, we see people who break through in different dynamics. They have a mental and emotional component, the two things together powering forward. And in the study of mythology and symbology, one thing I put with this is, it's the union of what's the lion and the unicorn. The lion is to do with the emotion, the energy of the heart. The unicorn is the energy of the head. And not by chance, you look at symbology in Britain, you see a lion and a unicorn together. They're saying we're going to take two energies. It's the symbol of the royal family there. We'll take two energies and they're going in that one direction. And I think of it a bit like the fleur-de-lis. You've got your mental life here, your emotional life here, but they're both concentrating into that third vector, as we spoke about in other current openings. I'm looking to escape the polarity. We don't want to go from I'm working with the mind and then suddenly the emotion rears up and knocks us off it. We actually want our mind and emotion to be working in the same direction. So I'd say that devotion is a key. That's what I'd put with that. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, great. Well, I'll be building on this awareness that David offered, where is it something that's triggered from the outside, or is it something you choose to devote yourself to by offering the first definition that David offered when we explored on episode 9, the emotions. David offered, well, when we look at the word emotions, it really means energy in motion. And building on what David is painting, the significance of the ionic content, the energetic content, it would be important to recognize that when we describe emotions, there is a whole gradient of different energies in motion. And the whole gradient of those different energies in motion, they actually appear in the human system in different places, and I'll refer to that in a moment. But to frame it in a simplistic way, one can observe that there are those emotions that you don't need to work hard for. They are always available nearby. The emotion of frustration, the emotion of anger, the emotion of pain. These are emotions that are always nearby. As David said, you're easily triggered by events all around you. And when something happens, you don't need to go seek for that energy. It's a readily available energy. However, to your question, Lisa, about how do we best use the fuel, I have come to appreciate that put on in one side the recognition of those potent fuels that are readily available, such as anger and pain and grief and frustration and so on, there are other potent fuels, other emotions that are not readily available, that one actually need to, as David said, devote oneself in order to get into contact with those fuels. For example, there are mystery questions that I have grappled with and thought about for 20 or 30 years, in some cases even more. So those questions are primarily universal in nature, and where they led me to is in some cases to evoke and discover an appreciation that unlocked a sense of awe, sense of reverence. So these are very different emotions. The nature of anger and pain is often they appear here in the area of the chest, the area of the throat. These other emotions, they are more, as David described, what accompanies the higher activity of the mind, and they are part of what joins a sense of communion, and then they become precious. When those feelings, when those emotions are awakened, you don't want to waste them in one short burst of anger. So that is to me the profound guidance about emotions. They represent a whole gradient of energies. Some are to do with the area of the throat and the chest. Some are more to do with the other processes that are activated by what we will sometimes describe as the connective human capacity. And they are to do with our sense of communion with the reasons and purpose of why human life appears here in this planetary theater. And those processes, they bring different kind of long wave, not hot, but cool kind of emotions. And they can stay with you for a very long time. Some would even say beyond this lifetime.
Wonderful. Thank you. I am in awe, really. And I just love the idea of all the different levels of emotions, and we can choose what we want to be with, which one we take up. So I'm going to pass it over to Peter. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, well, from the very earliest days of the Portals of Perception project, we've had the question on the homepage of the website, where does the future come from? And it's not a question that many people think of very hard about, and because it's very tricky. It's a very interesting subject. So when I was listening to Current Openings number 13, How Can We Help the Future? I heard a few clues that I'm interested in hearing more about. So you speak of being a conduit for life, as well as being co-respondent to the cosmos. So I'm wondering if you can elaborate on what that means, for me as an individual, but also what it implies for what's going on in the universe.
Yes, absolutely, indeed.
That's a great question. Yeah.
Thank you for this question. Shall I get started there?
David?
Go for it, Aviv.
Well, so by way of approaching this directly with some examples, when you dedicate yourself to designing and cultivating a beautiful garden, then the garden becomes your cosmos. So every day you wake up and you walk the garden, and the garden tells you what it needs and where you need to pay attention. And to bring this word that David used a minute ago, apply your devotion. If, on the other hand, you are a painter and you walk in the morning into your studio and you have the canvas you're working on and all the paints and everything in the studio and the canvas are your cosmos. And the canvas tells you that you need to go and add a little blue or a little white to the sky. So that becomes the lens through which you experience the cosmos, and the cosmos is experiencing your inquiry. In the third example, which Kyriaki spoke to earlier today, suppose you are a teacher of a fourth grade class. And if you truly love the children, the students showing up in your class, and you truly live into the sense that your purpose and mission as a teacher is to help unlock their creativity and their development, then you are forever in that adventurous quest of discovering how can you stimulate their learning. When my son was in his 4th grade, I spoke to the teacher. I said, what inspires you about the work? And he didn't need to think. He had a ready-made answer. Obviously, he thought about that. And he said, every day I show up to the classroom thinking, I could be teaching today the next president or a future president of the United States. Or I could be having in my class somebody who will solve some of the most complex, difficult problems on humanity's table. And so my job is to unlock that creative potential. So those first few examples, what they do is they bring me to an important discovery, which is that the cosmos is shaped by our focus, by the nature and the specificity of our focus, which for me, Peter, is a profound spiritual and religious dimension in this inquiry about the dialogue with the cosmos. Because, okay, I think I am interested in a subject, but is it just me interested in the subject, or is it whatever I'm gifted with by the universe nudging me in that direction where there may be a point of contact? So when I was building on that, when I was in my 30s, a mentor I looked up to said something that really startled me. He offered that the human being could develop multiple destinies in the universe and also discover a way of unlocking multiple births in the universe. I didn't understand what that meant. I thought that was a mystical and largely theological or poetic or out of reach idea, but I've now been thinking about it for 30 years. So I'm beginning to get a sense, because I've been asking myself, what does it mean? How do you go about it? And what does it actually mean to have multiple rebirths in the universe? So what I'm beginning to discover is that by building and cultivating different areas of inquiry, different spaces of life possibility where your potential, like for example, in your case, you have this capacity to see a big picture, and you are, nobody knows when they come to the portal site how is it all put together, but you're putting it all together. So that is a unique capacity. And in that process and in that inquiry of how to better serve the audience that come to the site and how to do so in a way that's interesting also for you, in that continual inquiry, you're building a certain internal configuration. So for me, the whole Portals project is the answer to your question, because the Portals project became an opportunity to inquire into the cosmos at large. The unique situation that I found myself in, birthing the project together with some of you here, and birthing also the Epoch project, and also working with executives in some of the leading companies all over the world, I'm truly operating in different universes. And the fascinating thing that I started to discover is, while I'm developing those different configurations or different cosmologies, which is a word that's derived from the cosmos, in my life, through my endeavor and application, those different universes get to actually have a conversation with each other inside me. And I get very interested in what these universes have to say to each other, and practically they deposit their revelatory process with me. So That's what I would say about the relevance of and the practicality. I would want to encourage that if you are a nurse, if you're a parent, if you're a gardener, if you're a chef, you are shaping the cosmos in the image of your interest. And right there you have a space that you and an opportunity for the larger cosmos to get interested in your artistry and craft.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, that's a great. It's a great opening question, and there's no answers. You know what's the great thing is that answers are like doors closing, but when there's a quest for ions, as a question, it opens up new energies and opens up new portals and new discoveries. So it strikes me that where does the future come from? Let's take an example very close to home. Each one of us, and all 8 billion human beings, we rely on a current heartbeat. We can't work on yesterday's heartbeat. And the heart it functions because an electrical signal that causes the heart to beat. Where does that signal come from? Well, it comes from the future, because it isn't here yet, but it will be in a couple of seconds. All the people watching this, they're relying on that signal coming from the future into their heart. Now, a medical person might say, no, it comes from the brain. Not entirely true, because they can see that hearts can pump without a signal from the brain. It's an electrical signal. So we have this electrical signal that's coming in from creation. I think of it from creation. So just a jump, and this is a bit naughty, but what is the nature of God comes into this. Big jump, but I just want to put it in a simple way. That and it's not, this is again opening questions. The way I think of it, God is not a fixed property. God is not a noun. I like to think God is a verb. Well, if you look at any word, the moment you add a D to it, you finish it off. So you say to someone, oh, I love you. And it's like, oh, that's nice. So, well, I loved you. It's like, oh, it's a bit over, isn't it? You add the D. Well, look at the word God. What does it say? It says, go, 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 go. And like it doesn't stop. It keeps going, go, go, go. The D has been stuck on there to make it a noun, not a noun. So go is a process. God is a process in that sense. And the energy keeps coming through. And if I want to sidestep everything that's got put with that term, because so much has got put with that term, we can say creation is always offering fresh generation of signal. So we're designed to be in the now, receiving energies from the future. So there's a new signal around today that wasn't around yesterday. There'll be a new signal tomorrow that's not around today. And as the current generation of humans, we pick up the currency of our generation. But there's another currency coming for the next generation. And it's interesting, again, words, we're a generation. There's a generation of energy that we pick up. And you could say it's a ration of genetics. It's a gene ration. It's a ration of genetics. We have a certain ration. You look at pictures of people from 60 years ago, the look in the eyes is different than the look in the eyes today. It'll be different again in 60 years. So there's a current flow of energy coming through creation. And we have this amazing opportunity in this planetary theater of appearance to take that energy, as Aviv says, and then create our own garden. We're not fixed, unlike, we looked at this in current openings before, but unlike the rest of the planetary program of organic life, the squirrel is always doing a squirrel and a cat is always doing a cat. The human is kaleidoscopic and can do 1,001 things. We get to choose. So we take the incoming signal and then we put a form to it in accordance with our passion and our inclination. And it never stops. The science tells us the universe is growing. I don't know, the number seems to change at 100,000 miles a second or some incredible, fantastic number. And that means that, you could say God is still working, expanding the universe. Go, 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 go. And we get to participate. And because our brain is limited, we like to take that and turn it into a fixed property that we can handle. But we actually can't handle the as Aviv said, the mystery question, like, what's on the other side of the universe? Our brain can't handle that question. Creation can handle it. So we're kind of in the flow, and we tend to, I think, because it all gets to be so much, we can tend to specialize in stopping the flow so that we can handle a little bit of something. But we're designed to be able to handle the flow of go. How about that? So there's a current opening there, and not to say that's a fullness about. But I think God can't be a noun. God has to be a verb, and then you have to take the D off. So it's in process, always in process, in process, in process. Thankfully, not stopping.
Yes. Well, what I like about both your answers is that there's this sense of a mutuality between these things, between the universe and between the individual. The idea that the cosmos, as Aviv said, of Painter's gallery, tells you, the cosmos is telling us what it wants and needs. So that could be the world of being a healer, a nurse. It could be any little cosmos, but also the larger cosmos is, in a way, telling us what it needs by these signals you're speaking about, David. Mm. So is this a matter of, learning to tune ourselves to these things? Is this what we are doing in this process? We're tuning so that we get access to really what the cosmos is already telling us. And something that we've been talking about from the beginning is service. And to me, that points us to this idea of what is truly service for a human being, for a human life. So maybe just if there's any follow-up in that sense.
I'm happy to take this and build on this and on the God inquiry from David, and potentially also turn around and put to all of you a mystery question that builds from that. We'll see in a minute. So the short answer that's arising with me, Peter, is yes. Life is about tuning to possibilities. And actually we can see with the toddlers that we get all the equipment to tune to the environment, to detect the environment and find what the environment invites us into and its possibilities. And you could describe a way in which we think about development as a whole journey of tuning into possibilities in yourself and around you. Inside what David offered, there is the next step from tuning, though, which is the point where we become the generating, emanating new source. So because there is implicit in this inquiry about the universe and creation, the potential that the human can become universe-like, which is something we are exploring in a series we call the Universalis Human. And so when I ask myself, so what does it mean to become universe-like? Well, for a start, indeed, we get to accelerate inside our own creation. What does it mean that we get to accelerate inside our own creation? Well, the practical suggestion there is I get up in the morning and I become more interested and focused in who I am becoming today and tomorrow rather than who I was yesterday. That's a different way of living a life. Most people go about their life protecting who they have discovered they are, their title, their identity, and so on and so forth. But there is a different way of living into the mystery of who we are, who I am becoming and who we are becoming. And inside that inquiry, unlocking tremendous amount of currency and energy such that it becomes a source of inspiration for yourself, for your life, and for others, at which point the tuning as a human becomes tuning and going beyond that into generating and emanating possibilities. So when a person lives more into that kind of a way of being and way of living, they create possibilities for the people around them. They literally create possibilities for people around them because they imagine what has not yet been possible but is becoming possible, and by the virtue of doing that, it creates a space that others can move into and discover their own nature in it. And if I try to listen to the entire flow, and then I'll let David respond, and then I'd like to turn around and ask you all a question. For me, the thread through all our inquiries about the emotions, about the sense of being fresh and vital, about being able to meet the chaotic, cacophonous world and be tethered, there is a core impulse in human life, or in life at large. I'd say it's the impulse of life expressing itself in human life, which is the impulse of freedom and liberation. Life wants to express itself and come to its fuller possibility and expression and be free. And you see that is arising in each and every one of us. We want to discover what is our natural talent, what can we do, how can we... The quest for more money, more everything else is a diminished expression of the bigger impulse, the universal impulse for larger freedom. We think in today's world and culture that if I have more money, guess what? I'll be more free. But the deeper universal impulse, I observe to be one of freedom. And so what we are now describing and what you are prompting us into in this inquiry about the cosmos and the human capacity to become attuned and tethered to the cosmic possibility, the universal possibility, for me it speaks about how do we as human beings in this each in this generation right now, generations to come in the future, how do we live into the fullest freedom of our potential? And it strikes me that we live in a time where humans have the capacity, the opportunity to become more universal in their nature and in their way of being. And if we do this right without blowing this planet, I am just ever so thrilled in my imagination for what's to be discovered by next generations to come. So that would be my follow-up. Please, David.
Well, I'd say evolution is not over.
Right.
It can't be based on a signal from the past. So I look at the signals from the past, and it's brought us to the point where we are now. It's an issue I have with world religions. I don't see a return of a pre-existing savior. I don't see Jesus coming back. I don't see Muhammad coming back. I don't see a reduce, reuse, recycle system. When it comes to evolution, there's the new incoming, and then there's the platform that's there to meet that new incoming. And so laptop man is not an ultimate. If we sort of look at our ongoing technology, we can see the external evolution of form. So we get this word used about things like computers, or the evolution of into the iPod, or the evolution into artificial intelligence. But the great question for me is about the evolution of the organic form of the planet, also the organic form of the human. I mean, never mind about the external internet is amazing. The external technology of the human is amazing. But there's the evolution of the human itself. And that is something which is It's not fixed. It's not over. It's not done. It's not set. We're still in it, and each generation is picking up the new signal. But we're trained very often from young to live inside what's already been discovered, the classics in a way. We're kind of taught to pick things up from the secondhand shop, go into the shop and pick up something from Rome, and now to go into the signal of Rome, or pick up something from Babylon or wherever, and go into the past. And then we become knowledgeable, and we may get a degree in it and whatever, and we become an expert on something that was. Well, that's great, but the evolution is coming from the future, not by, we can dig into the past to see what's happened to help us prepare for the future, but the signal is coming from the future. The signal is from go, 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 not from what it was. It's what's incoming now. And to me, that's the human speciality. We have that capability, but we can get locked up into old stuff, like secondhand rose. We can get locked up into old signals, and that can block us from new possibility. And I think that's why when we meet someone, don't we say, "Hey, what's new?" We don't say, "What's old?" What's old? We say, what's new? Yeah.
Although most of what is served as news is old.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So David, let me build on this and turn the tables and ask everybody here a question, because you just offered a delicious segue by number one saying evolution is not over, and number two announcing that we ain't gonna see any of the old prophets coming back. So that's a wonderful platforming for me to ask the following question, because we've been, all of us here, journeying together for a while. And in our recent current openings event, we spoke about the idea of the post-guru phase. And we suggested that we have entered a post-guru time. And it's that which I would like to ask you about, which is, what do you perceive or understand is the significance or the meaning? What does it mean for you when we say that we have entered the post-guru phase? And just to give you some, because I didn't give you any warning, so to give you a moment to collect your thoughts about this. Here we are, David and I, we don't present ourselves as gurus. However, we do have points of views about all sorts of small and large topics. So how do we think about this proposition of a post-guru phase? Historically, traditionally, teachers used to have three large roles. They would be lineage keepers, keep a body of work, keep a path, whatever, in the East or the West, so people would know that tradition is kept through several generations. Number two, their job, the second function was, there was a reliable, known place you could come to, and somebody would actually offer you the guidance if you were one of those truth seekers, wisdom seekers, development seekers. That was a lineage keeper, a guru, a teacher, a coach to offer somebody direction. And the third function sometime was to evolve, in some occasions evolve the lineage into its next new frontier. Some have done that. Now, true, all along these centuries, there were always problematic elements in the guru-student dynamics. This is part of a different conversation. We'll attend to that conversation another time. We are nevertheless saying or asserting this proposal that something shifted, something ended. And when we talked about it in the context of the three lives in the event, what we said was, just a gesture of how to think about it was, well, we have entered time where each person is invited to take full responsibility to their development journey. So that's how we premised and left it very much there as a seeded idea. But there are still questions, many questions, such as, well, so how is one to think about a development journey in this time? And do you need a teacher? And if yes, what is the place of the teacher? So I'm not asking you to, each one of us could talk about this for probably an hour, and then it will be a 4-hour episode. But if you needed to offer an entry thought, a starter idea, a starter consideration of what it means for you to contemplate the idea, whether you agree, and if you agree to it, that we have entered a post-guru time, where do you see the development path inside this new phase? And what comes alive for you when you hear the post-guru time of development? Please.
Yes, I think it's quite obvious that we are in the end of an era. And it just takes one to have a look around and see that our whole society is like a big pot that is burning. A lot of the old paradigms have lost their fizz, have lost their current energy that used to sustain humanity. And obviously the leaders, even the leaders of countries, the spiritual leaders, they seem to not be able to cope with the situation, with the challenges of our world, of our times. They can agree with each other, so they can bring solutions. They cannot diffuse crisis, and so people we lose our trust to that they used to be there. On the other hand, I see that there is a part in us that always loves maybe to surrender our responsibility to someone who is more ahead on the way in their development. And it's maybe the child in us that wants to be mothered and fathered. But I think maybe some clue is that now we need to be, because no one is trustworthy, one. The situation is so complicated that I don't think one person can bring the solution. And a new consciousness or new intelligence is coming, is available together with the new challenges. So it needs more than one person, I think. So what I would say, the post-guru quest for me is in 3 steps. The one is that you become responsible for yourself. So of course you can be influenced and inspired by others, but you will make your own North Star, as you said before. What is your purpose? And you are the last to decide about your life. And the other is that we can be the guru of each other. So we can be the guru of ourselves. We can be the guru of each other. And maybe a person you meet in the street that you haven't never met before, and yet they can be the person that will unlock a very special truth for you. So yeah, so to be open to that. And there's the third thing, I think that life itself is a guru. Life that is never stopping. As David said, I love this notion of God being a go, I have the word being for God, being. Life, it's teaching you all the time. It may be grounding you. It may be taking you up, taking you down, taking you all over the place. And this unknown aspect of life and the fact that it never ceases to evolve and to rush in, I think is the greatest guru. So that's what I would say.
Wonderful. Please, Patrick.
Very interesting question, because my upbringing, I had a very strict, conventional, religious upbringing. You know, there was a priest, there was a church, there was a central authority. They told you what to do, what to believe, and you just followed rules. And that never worked for me at all. Even as a kid, I just thought, you could look around and you could see the hypocrisy and see how rituals and ceremonies with nothing behind them just did nothing for me. But at the same time, I had certain experiences within this overall sort of religious context that said, there's something here for the human, but I'm not finding it here. So my whole life, I have been running away from gurus, central authority, anyone who says they have the answer. That's never attracted me. What I've wanted is, I've always felt that it's possible for me, just little old me, to connect to the universe, and I can connect to God, and I can have my own relationship with the future, with the cosmos, if I didn't know how to do it. So I've been looking for knowledge and information on how do I get myself switched on to where I can be and have a spiritual future. But I've always been very suspicious of central authority figures who say they have the answer and follow me and I will take you there, because my experience has been they don't. They have information and they have clues. And so for me, it's kind of this lifelong tension between, you find someone who's really bright, and I think he knows something or she knows something that I want to know, but I don't want them as my teacher, as my guru. I'm not going to follow them. I want to know what they know and find out how they got there. So I guess with me, it's not sort of a post-guru. I've always been running away from anything that had that kind of a role, and looking more for connections and information and knowledge and how to do it myself. And sometimes that does involve finding some very smart people who have done it and are willing to share and help you along the way without becoming that central authority. And you know, there's a big difference between someone who has been there and wants to show you the way, as opposed to someone who wants a following. I know the answer, come and follow me, and I'll take you there.
Great what's been said. I agree with everything. My thoughts would start with the confidence and my inner confirmation, so that I can trust in myself. And as everyone has said, it's great to have teachers, and I hope there are people who consider me their teacher. So it's a give and a get. But it starts with going inward and believing in oneself. That's where it would start. And the other point I would bring up, as we talked today, I made some notes here about detecting and inquiring and all the questions and how we tune in and what's the evidence and self-leadership. So for me, my quest right now is seeking the truth. And I think that's a big part of what we do here on all the current openings and in portals in general, is seeking what is the real truth of today that can take us into the future, so that we can offer service and we can, find a journey that offers the greatest purpose. So to me, listening to that, detecting what is the real truth of the moment, that can lead this life to the future. And then I don't have to rely on what I'm told. So that's what I would put in.
Yeah, wonderful. Lisa, maybe we can start a new meme on the internet. There is a meme called Deep Fake. Maybe we can start a meme called Deep Truth.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the things that have been said earlier point to the idea that every life matters, matters to the universe. You know, it's easy as tiny beings on a planet in a huge universe can feel, what does it matter what I do? But I think this kind of idea that we are conduits for the possibility of the universe, we have a role to play. You know, its possibility is our possibility. And so with that great gift comes great responsibility. So I think just, you know, people today have come to understand what a carbon footprint means in terms of their responsibility and what their effect on the world around them. So maybe we could talk about a cosmic footprint and what is the ripple from our life into the planet, into our communities, into the planet, into the universe, and taking responsibility for that. And, you know, like any form of life, it seems that there's always a point where you have to be kicked out of the nest and you have to fly on your own. So the post-guru, I think maybe the planet and the human race has reached this point of it needs to be kicked out of its nest. It needs an evolution. It needs an upgrade, needs to step up to a new level of maturity. And I think that comes to, you know, what's been said, but, you know, it's kind of a personal religion of, you know, the phrase I wrote down was a personal religion of what works, because everyone has a different battle to face, to fight in themselves, psychologically, shadow, all these things. We all have different battles, different gifts and different challenges. So it's finding what works and continuing to grow and taking the responsibility to always grow and seek out, that next information, the next clue, and being open to the signals of the universe, as we've spoken, that it can tell us if we're watching for the guidance and for the information to come to us. We're open to it. We can receive, and we just stay open like that.
Yes,
Beautiful.
Indeed, David. Anything you'd add to this beautiful kaleidoscopic picture we're developing here?
Curiously enough, what turned up in my head is the mastery and the mystery. That is that there's a certain level of mastery required in the post-guru quest to, in a way, be one's own master or master of oneself to a certain level, and then be open to the mystery of what's next. So one doesn't then come to the assumption that, well, now I've become a master, so now I become a guru and I teach everybody about the fixed signals that I'm now aware of, because meanwhile the mystery moves on. So the universe moves on and can leave the guru bleating about what was the case 20 years ago or 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. But meanwhile, the universe isn't listening to that. The universe is moving on. So there's a degree of self-mastery, but not to then be able to become a criteria upon others, but to be able to be open to the mystery of what's on setting next. So I think there's a beautiful kind of relationship between those two aspects. The necessary mastery, maybe the mastery of the lower, to be able to be open in the higher, like manage the lower to pioneer the higher, or be open or available to a new incoming signal that's not something that's already represented on the planet. Because if it's already represented on the planet, it's already here, it's already manifested, and that means it's already secured here. But what isn't secured is what's coming in new now, or next week, or next year, or the year after, which is why I see as we move on, we leave behind the foundations of what have brought us to this point. So we give them respect, we give them honor, we give them thanks, but we don't copy them. We don't say that's it. We're now copying. Our job is to copy what happened 1,000 years ago ongoingly for the next 10,000 years. That doesn't make any sense against what Lisa said, the truth of the universe, which is it moves on. So I'm caught with that relationship between those twin dynamics, the mastery and the mystery.
Yes, yes, indeed. And so what I'm noticing through all your answers and all of your live in the moment contemplations is that when we use the term, when we describe a post-guru phase, we're describing merely a feature, one facet of an evolutionary process. It's highlighting certain element of evolution is not over, as you said, David. And the sense of becoming attuned to the cosmic footprint, I like that, Peter. I think that's the name of a future episode. And seeing and recognizing with both the deeper truth and the real truth of whatever situation you're in, and the sense of responsibility, self-responsibility that Kira spoke to. And Patrick, in what you offer, that sense of you've always intuitively felt that the idea was the human is given everything in terms of its equipment, and the idea was not to become a copycat of anybody else. And so could we look around and find whatever truth, wisdom, inspiration we could find through the lens of responsibility and recognizing that we are sculpting our own future. We are, in a way, by sculpting our own future, we are sculptors of the universe on behalf of the universe. So that is actually the kind of partnering relationship that human participation in the universe is about. So it strikes me that what we have done here in this first experiment of questions and answers, and then turning the table and asking the question back at you, we've opened many starters and seeded possibilities. And so if you stayed with us through to this point, first, you're welcome to join future events, current openings events, and you're welcome to come to the open circle and be part of the conversation, be part of creating and shaping these conversations. Ultimately, what we are saying is that part of the post-guru phase is one where we are each co-creating the conversation. And that is the central inspiration for the Portals project. We are all invited to co-create the conversation. And perhaps that is one place where Peter's question about where is the future appearing, well, could it be that the future is appearing through new conversations where we discover ourselves with each other, the new ideas, the new connections, the new possibilities. And so please come join us. And thank you for this discovery. Until next, thank you very much.
Thank you, Aviv. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Along with our website at portalsofperception.org, Portals is also available on YouTube and on all podcast platforms, as well as social media. You can become an active member and join the conversation in community events. And you can help us get the word out by liking this content and by sharing it with your friends.